I'm gonna throw to another video, screen recording. It's gonna be me like going through Premiere, importing audio and video. I'm gonna show you how I sync audio and like the final version of the podcast that's recorded here. I swap that out with the video because right now our video is being recorded like OBS. It's recorded on vMix. I'll take the audio we're talking into the microphones and edit an Audition and sync it up. I'll show you how to do that. Adding graphics. I'll go into full detail on framing the graphics, the size of the graphics, the positioning, the colors, the fonts, etc. How to transition in and out of graphics between fades, whether it's in After Effects or it's in Premiere. Timing, how long you should keep them up. Screen recording of adding different graphics. So like my lower third, my name. If it's an hour podcast, I'll do every 15 minutes. I'll explain why I do that. Banner lower thirds, where to put those for our Unknown Unnamed Nonsense edition. Noticing time codes of where I cut segments because that's important for YouTube chapters. I'll show you what it's like to render and how long it can take. Don't worry, I won't show you the full 15 minutes. If it's an hour podcast, the render can take up to 15 minutes, and I have a pretty strong computer for that. So if you have a weak computer, it could take up to an hour, if not longer. Now I'll show you how to save and export. So all that, and then we'll be right back to talk about one more clip, throw another clip, and then we'll go on home. So if you're listening to just the audio, go to YouTube and subscribe and watch the video because I can't show you video on an audio podcast. So yeah, we'll be right back. Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Will Tarashuk, the founder of Ambiguous Podcast Solutions. If you're listening to the full podcast, thank you for taking the time to take away from this cutaway. And if you're listening to the clip, thank you for watching that too. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and listen to the full podcast for the full tutorials on everything we do at Ambiguous Podcast Solutions. Today, I'm going to show you all about video editing, syncing audio, using graphics, all that fun stuff. So let's start by opening Premiere. Now from here, I'm going to hit New Project. I'm going to call it Premiere APS Tutorial. I'm going to choose location. I'm just going to put it right on my desktop. You can do this to put it anywhere you want. I'm going to hit Create. Now these are all my windows. You can go and change it here. You can have like edit to tape, capture, production. There's also some presets. If you want to do editing, you can do this, but this is how I like my default, where I have my text for my subtitles, my effects for my transitions, and essential graphics so I can edit the actual subtitles themselves. But let's start by importing media. Go to my File Explorer, APS storage, where I keep everything APS related on my A drive for APS. Clever, I know. Podcasts. How to podcast. For this example, I'm going to do episode number 4, software. Import the video and the audio. Drag and drop. From there, I'm going to drag the raw video into Premiere, the timeline. And this is your program. This is when you export, everything is going to be seen. Everything will be seen here. So if you see a box here, like your source, if I double click this, this is my source. I can edit this a little bit, but unless I put it here and you see it here, it's not going to make a difference. So let's take our audio, drag it over. Now, as you can see, when I click this, the audio is linked. And that's going to be important in just a second. So for now, we need to synchronize the audio. The first thing I do is synchronize the audio. Now, technically, this audio is the exact same, word for word, beat for beat, frame for frame. The only difference is that this one, the blue one, was recorded with the video in OBS in Cube Recording Studios. And this one, the green one, is an edited version in Adobe Audition. If you watch my tutorial on Audition, you will know exactly what it means, how I edit my podcast using the effects racks, multi-track, exporting, saving, all that fun stuff. But for now, I'm going to drag a box. I'm going to right-click. I'm going to hit Synchronize. I'm going to hit Audio, Track 1. This is all defaulted. I hit OK. Now, this can take a little bit of time, depending on the length of the files and, I guess, the difficulty. But since it's the exact same, it shouldn't be any issue. Excuse me. So I'm going to cut ahead to when it was finished. Oh, don't have to. There it is. Okay. So as you can see, there's a little bit of schmutz in the beginning I can get rid of. So I'm going to drag up until I see this. You see the triangle on that green? Watch the green. Look at the triangle. Boom. At the top left of the green box. That means it is at the same position. I'm going to drag this over a little bit to the beginning. I'm going to zoom in. And if you look at this, for example, the audio is perfectly synced up, or just about maybe a half frame off. And you can tell. This is episode 4 of the How-To Podcast series brought to you by Ambiguous. And eventually you can't hear the difference. It's pretty much the exact same. But just to make sure I don't have a double speak or an echo or anything additional, I'm going to right-click on my raw video. I'm going to unlink. Now what that does is it treats the audio and the video as separate. So I can go like this, and boom, the video doesn't say it's the same. But I'm going to delete because I do not need that. That's the bad audio. This is the good audio. I am going to make sure, yep, you can see a double triangle. It's lined up. Drag, go to the way beginning 000, drag so the video starts at the beginning. And then we're going to go to the ends to make sure it ends where it should end. Podcast Solutions. We'll see you next time, but until then, y'all take care. Boom. I'm going to end it there. Get rid of the extra video. Go here. Cut the audio. Delete that. I'm going to do a fade to black. Now, when you see this icon, that's a transition. Actually, first, I lied. I'm going to sync the audio again. Link the audio, excuse me. Link the audio. So now, I zoom in, zoom out. You know, same. So, I'm going to double click. My default transition is a fade to black. Or is it a crossfade? No, it's a crossfade. Cross dissolve. So to cross dissolve, this happens to go to black, so it will dissolve into black. And if you go to effects, type in cross, I can make it a cross zoom. I just need to right click, set as default. And if I change it, my default will be a cross zoom to which it goes inwards, which looks silly. So let's go back to a cross dissolve. I actually don't need the audio transition. I just need the video. Let's double click. Boom. Back to a cross dissolve. Get rid of that. Back to the beginning. Do the same thing. Actually, I'll probably get rid of all that ridiculousness. Boom. Drag. And a fade in. It took a little long. I can also make it faster by shrinking it in. Boom. Faster. Looks better. Okay. So, I have our audio in sync. I have the full podcast. Everything is in sync. Now, I need to add lower thirds. So, my philosophy for lower thirds, I do every 15 minutes, I throw up a lower third. So, welcome back. This is episode 4 of the How-To Podcast series brought to you by Ambiguous Podcast Solutions. My name is Will. So I say my name, 8 seconds in, I'm going to go to my graphics folder, which happens to be Talking to Tarashuk. Graphics is how I organize it. You want to do it the same way? Do it. You don't? Don't. Fine with me. Final graphics. Name. I believe it was design 9. If it's not, we'll use it anyway. Drag it in. No, it's not design 9. Which one was it then? Let's try, and that didn't look good, so let's try design 8. Yeah, this won't be fine. Will lower third. Podcast Solutions. There we go. And as you can see, as it started out, that blue box. Actually, no.
Oh, well, as a man,
so there's my transition. All this was done in Adobe After Effects. You start with some sort of animation. Once it's up, I keep it up for about 7 seconds. Let's go. Let's make it between 7 and 10 seconds. So it's at 12. Let's make it 20. Oh, I need to move it maybe a little earlier then. See, in about 18 seconds, it automatically fades out. And there's my issue at the end. So, let's double click, fade it down so it's off screen. And from there, I can just cut this and get rid of the extra stuff. That was an exporting error in After Effects. So, let's move this back a little bit so it doesn't cross dissolve into a Christian's frame. And bam. Perfect. So let's watch this back.
Podcast Solutions. My name is Will Tarashuk, the founder of Ambiguous Podcast Solutions, as well as the man behind the board, Mr. Christian Wright, the founder of Cube Recording Studios. Christian, how are you?
Doing well.
Boom. Lower third. So I frame it in the bottom left. Now, sometimes when I do lower thirds, it's huge. If you need to resize it, you just double click and you can make it bigger. You can make it smaller. You can move it up. You can put it down. You can put it wherever you want. But typically, the bottom left is where you want it. I like them to be a little bit bigger so you can actually read them. But I'm going to copy, Control C. I'm going to go 15 minutes ahead. So let's go to 15 minutes. Here I am again. Look at my mug.
Very little experience doing it. I did it probably about half a dozen times.
I'm going to put it again. Let's make it a little after 15 minutes. There I am. I think 15 minutes makes sense because my podcasts are typically an hour. So once 25% of the time, every 25% in, just for a lower third. It's just a stylistic choice, and to me it makes sense. 30 minutes. If you want to do it once at the beginning, once at the end, that's totally fine too. So here's an example where we're in a split screen, right? So for this particular lower third, you want to get where I'm talking. Let me do it again, except this time, I'm going to reframe it so it's over on the right side on my portion because I'm the one talking. Because you don't want to make people think that this is Will Tarashuk. This is Will Tarashuk. That's me. Look at my mug. So let's see how it looks.
Be in the green room, testing their audio, getting them framed up, making sure everything's good to go. So once they're in with me, there's no kinks. There's nothing to work out. Everything's ready to go.
Perfect. Let's go up to 45. Here I am again. Just make sure. Great. And then at the end, when I'm giving my plugs.
T.S. and Thomas.
T.S. and Thomas. It always makes sense to put it up when I say my name. Right?
My name is Will Tarashuk. It's T.S. and Thomas, Arashuk. Thank you so much for listening and watching in our...
Perfect. And I would do the exact same thing for Christian. So when Christian pops up, let's see what Christian pops up. So I would do it here. Back to my folder. Christian lower third, V8. Boom. Make sure that's just lowered. And I can cut it off. Same thing, Control C. And then just go through the process. Now, also, for lower thirds, I also have social media lower thirds. So let's go back here. Let's go to banners. And here are my banners. Instagram, iTunes, Spotify, TikTok, and YouTube. So let's say I want to throw up an Instagram one. I do the same thing for this too. Every 15 minutes. So let's throw it in. Starting at about 2 minutes. Boom.
It's the oldest and it's the first to get to market.
Now you can see it's huge. Now, I don't want it to be that big, but that's how it exported and rendered from After Effects. So I'm going to need to resize it. Double click. Bring that sumbitch down. Move it down so it's centered. And then bam.
But the specs oftentimes are superior to other deals.
Now, I know this one for a fact. Where it rendered, there's a point where it just cuts off because it didn't do the fade out animation. So I must have screwed up somewhere in After Effects. But let's find out what that is right there. So I'm going to go right here. I'm going to cut. I'm going to delete. I'm going to do a crossfade. And out it goes. So that's at 2 minutes. Let's go to 17 minutes or 18 minutes. Let's go 17:35. And let's throw up the Spotify. I'm going to do a different one. Same thing. Boom. It's huge. Let's make it smaller so it's still legible. Let's bring it down. Let's find that cutoff mark right there. Ooh, right before transition too. Let's go cut it off. And then bam. Fades. Actually, let's make it a little bit bigger. A little too small.
Well, make sure you can read Talking with Tarashuk. And if you're not subscribed on Spotify, make sure you go do that. Please and thank you. 30 minutes in. Around, probably, let's say 33 minutes in. Let's do TikTok. And same thing. It works over a double. I like to make sure that we don't cut. Like for somebody, if it say it cut to me right here, I would not put it there. I think a lower third looks bad if it goes over a cut. But again, stylistic choice. All right. So that is the social media lower thirds. But for this particular podcast, right, we had banners so I can know when to transition, really. So also it makes more sense to know when we're talking about something. So let's say like here.
Looks horrible. Open source.
Yeah, I'm going to show screenshots.
They're not in.
It looks like it was made in 98. Edit your podcast, record and edit in multi-track, which is action. Because you can just do it by yourself. So we'll get into pricing and all that stuff too. But free software. Here we go. Free software. Right. This is the beginning of a segment. So this was like our intro. Let's get into free software. So I'm going to use this tool to cut. And I'm going to note this time, 0232, 2 minutes and 32 seconds. And I'm going to note that because that is what that's the start of a clip. When I'm going through and adding in these graphics, I always make sure that I know where my clips are. So I know I can go back later and edit them faster. I'll show you more about that when I do the editing clips video. But for this, 0232 is for YouTube chapters. So it's easier to find. But let's go back to podcasts. How to Podcast, episode 4, Talking with Tarashuk graphics, because it goes on the Talking with Tarashuk feed. Assets. Let's find the free software. There it is. Drag it in. And then bam, I mentioned stuff too, but free software. Free software, drag it over, boom. There are free softwares out there that are available. Over the internet, you can record. Now, I do this banner for this particular podcast because this is what we're talking about, right? And then eventually, if it's a little too long, I think this is a little bit long, but sometimes make sense, so let's kind of cut it. Boom, in the middle. Get rid of it. Drag it over. And the important thing is the fade out is still there. It'll still the wipe out. All right, and eventually, you know, say over here.
Open source.
Yeah, I'm going to show a screenshot. Let's say up here.
And you have a certain amount of time.
You know, we're talking about Audition. I'll go back. Adobe Audition. I'll put that here. It's also a nice way for me to know later on where the clip ended. So let's say the clip ended about there. Let's say it ended there. I can do the snip tool, cut, bam, and then
it's to
yeah, no, same with Audition. So let's say the clip starts here. Same thing. Mention a time frame, 10:53. That's just for organizational purposes in YouTube. Right? So by the time all of our graphics are in, let's actually, I can show you the full one with all the graphics. How to podcast, for edit files, bam, history. Let me clear in and out. So here is the final project. So this is the raw video without all the graphics. Here's the one with all the graphics. You can see free software, Audacity, my graphic for Audacity looks. So for example, like here's the time code for free software. Yep, 2:30, bam. Then it ends where Audacity starts, so it ends about right here. Then bam, 3 o'clock. Right, there's a good 30-second clip. Or if I want to do Audacity, you know, start here, and I can end over here. Bam. Now you can see how this bar is green. Now that means it's rendered. Now, we taught you what rendering means in the full version of this podcast. So if you listen to just a clip, go find the full version, which is the Welcome to Post-Production, editing your podcast. But before we export, the entire clip needs to be rendered. Now, this is going to take a while because the podcast itself is about an hour long, and that really matters on PC specs. So let's kind of talk about that. So to render, you want to go to Sequence, Render Into Out. And what this is doing, where is it going? Okay, good. It's saving on my hard drive. So what it's doing, estimated time remaining, about 8 minutes. This is actually pretty accurate, depending on your render settings. Now, I'm going to skip ahead once I'm done yapping here. But you can export when the bar is fully green. You can do it when it's yellow, but it's better when it's green. If you add in effects, you saw like when I did the cross dissolve, it was red. You need to render it. It has to be green or yellow in order to export. Now, this is taking a while. It's taking a longer time based off of your PC specs. I think for rendering, it's mostly based off of your graphics card. So, for example, mine is an NVIDIA 1070, whereas if I upgrade it to a 3090, it's going to be a lot faster. I also have 32 gigabytes of RAM. RAM could also be in effect to see like how much computer power it's using. So you can see Adobe Audition is using up 80% of my CPU. It is using up about 50% of my memory and 30% of my GPU and a lot of power. Now, it takes up a lot of power to render a file this big. The more powerful the computer, the faster it'll take. And some computers, like laptops, might not be able to handle it at all. So keep that in mind, too, if you're going to edit or hire someone out to edit. But for the sake of argument, I'm going to skip ahead to when this is finished, and then we're going to export.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello. Welcome
right.
back.
And we're done. 9 minutes later. Welcome to the future. As you can see, the green bar, fully green. All of our effects are in there. Our lower thirds, all this fun stuff. What did I over this for? Oh, yeah. That's right. So, we are ready to export. From here, all you got to do... Well, first, let's save it first. So, let's hit Save. Don't want to lose your progress. Hit Export. And from here, the default is about 1080. This, that, and the other. You can also just do Match Source to record what you recorded in, which happen to also be 1080. File name, just call it APPS Premiere Tutorial Final Video, right? Yeah. Hit desktop, location, so you can pick and choose it anywhere. So for this one, for example, I would have gone to podcasts, how to podcast, episode 4, talking with Tarashuk, graphics, clips, and then bam, I would have hit save. But for the sake of this tutorial, let's just do desktop. Estimated file size, about 8 gigabytes. That's off. I don't know why. I guess this is very off. It's probably about 7.5. Probably 7.5, maybe 7.75. But that's why it's an estimate. There's other things you can do here with editing, the size of the file. But I'll show you how to do that in clips. So stay tuned for that. And from there, here's hit export. And same thing. This will also take some time. Let's see how much of a PC it uses this time. No, surprisingly, not that much. But yeah, takes about 7 minutes, 6 minutes, depending on the file. And it'll save right on my desktop. As you can see, it's saving right here. It'll just be one file. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up everything you need to know about how I use Adobe Premiere. Feel free to use it the same way. That 15-minute rule, I think, is gospel. I love it. Syncing audio is super important. Getting rid of the stuff from the beginning and the ends. The effects racks, or for the cross dissolve and all that fun stuff. But yeah, thanks for watching. Hope this helps. If it doesn't, I'm sorry. I wasted about 15, 20 minutes of your life. If it did, you're welcome. Let's go back to the full podcast with me and Christian. Christian, what's up, my friend? How you doing?
All right, I hope that was helpful. welcome back, everybody. I hope that video helped you. That's how I edit clips for all my podcasts. It can take a little while. Subtitles can be a pain in the bum. But hey, the content I make for my fans. But finally, actually, no, the subtitles are in the next clip. So I didn't do subtitles for that one. I thought I did, but I didn't. I lied.